Hello, my name is Gabriel Dunn. Today's date is December 2nd, 2018. Today I wanted to talk to you about nonverbal communication in healthcare. What is nonverbal communication? Well, communication involves a sender sending a message to a receiver. The receiver then decodes the message and understands it. Nonverbal and verbal communication then is the use of words to send that message, or the absence of words to communicate a message. You may have seen the numbers that state that over 90% of our communication is actually nonverbal, and only 10% of what we say is the words that we use. This is an astounding statistic. Some of the nonverbal communication behaviors include, but are not limited to, your posture, maintaining eye contact, the tone of your voice, what you're wearing, your appearance in general, such as your hygiene, walking around, locomotion, the proximity that you are to the audience or the person you're speaking to, how close you are, and facial expressions are a big one as well. What does nonverbal communication look like in healthcare? There was a study that was done, and they wanted to know how impactful nonverbal communication was in the patient interaction. They determined this by having the clinician have a consultation with the patient, and a survey was given afterward on that interaction. And two things stuck out the most in a couple of the studies I looked at. Eye contact was one of the biggest factors in a positive outcome or view on the visit, and also touch, that social touch. These two influence how the patient viewed the encounter most from all of the nonverbal cues. So things like shaking a hand when you first meet the person that you're going to be, trying to help, and talking to them about this very personal history and issue that they've been dealing with. You want to build a relationship. You want to build rapport. You want to build trust. Maintaining eye contact, it's like you're paying attention to them. You're attentive to them. All of these things speak volumes. Even the waiting room where the patient is waiting before they speak to you, is it dirty? Is it clean? Are there refreshments? In other words, is it inviting? It was also determined in the studies that there are better patient outcomes medically because they trust the provider, they trust what they say, and they are more apt to follow the prescribed medical care. And so there's even better medical outcomes as a result of having good nonverbal communication skills. Excuse me. So it's one of the bedrocks, or let's say the bedrocks of healthcare. Some of the foundations of providing good healthcare is being sympathetic, being empathetic, and being compassionate. All these things sound the same, but they're not the same. Sympathy involves being able to understand why a person feels a certain way, and empathy is being able to make that connection and feel what they feel, an emotional connection. And compassion is then taking those things and doing something about it to make the person feel better, to relieve whatever is ailing them. So all of these things, it's a communication dependent thing, and if we speak more with the things that we don't say than the things that we say, it's very important that we're aware of these things. There are some other considerations. One of the studies really sought to connect the facial expressions with emotion, and there are these innate emotions that we all have, such as anger and fear, and there was a physiological measurement of blood flow that was seen in connection with facial expressions. So these things are very evident, and it's important to realize that as we have this advent of technology, computers, electronic medical records, that we don't lose the nonverbal communication skills. Instead of working on the computer while the patient's over there talking, instead we should wait and hear what they have to say, make that connection, build that rapport, build that trust, build that relationship, and then we can go to the computer, enter that information in. Things like training, these are a consideration, a concern, because most people think that it's innate, it's a natural thing to be able to communicate and be able to recognize nonverbal communication. Sending an unintended message is bad. When our words don't match what our body language is, if we say, I'm feeling energetic, I'm feeling so full of energy right now, it's not matching right now. If I say, yeah, I'm so energetic, that's different. So these things just aren't apparent. We need to have training for these things, and this is something that's just often neglected. Finally, having ongoing feedback, a survey, some sort of mechanism to be able to probe how the patients feel about the interaction is important, because then the management, they can make those changes as needed, and send their employees to training if they need to have training. And all in all, these communication skills are going to have better medical outcomes. You're going to have better relationships with your patients. You're going to get better information. They're going to be more compliant, and everyone's just going to have a better experience overall. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.